Prague, 1942, a city of ancient beauty, now draped in the chilling black and red of the swastika. Its people live under the shadow of a new master, a man so ruthless, so utterly devoted to the Nazi ideology of terror that he was known by many names: the Butcher of Prague, the Blond Beast, the Hangman. Adolf Hitler himself called him the man with the iron heart. His name was Reinhard Heydrich. He was a principal architect of the Holocaust, a high-ranking SS Obergruppenführer, and one of the most powerful and feared men in the Third Reich. From his headquarters in Prague Castle, he ruled with absolute brutality, crushing the Czech spirit under his boot. But in the quiet corridors of London, the Czechoslovak government in exile made a decision of unprecedented audacity. They would not stand by as their nation was slowly bled dry. They would strike back, not at a military installation, not at a supply line, but at the man himself. This is the story of Operation Anthropoid, a secret mission to assassinate Hitler's deadliest man, and the terrifying consequences of daring to fight back. To understand the mission, one must first understand the target. Reinhard Heydrich was not a common thug. Born into a cultured musical family, he was an accomplished fencer, violinist, and pilot. But behind this facade of refinement lay a cold, calculating ambition and a bottomless capacity for cruelty. After a scandal ended his naval career, Heydrich found his true calling in the fledgling Nazi Party, joining the SS. Under the patronage of Heinrich Himmler, his rise was meteoric. He became the architect and head of the SS security service, the Sicherheitsdienst, or SD, a vast intelligence network built on paranoia and terror. His hands were stained with the blood of the Night of the Long Knives, the brutal 1934 purge of Hitler's internal rivals. But his most monstrous legacy was yet to come. In January 1942, Heydrich chaired the Wannsee Conference, a secret meeting of high-ranking Nazi officials. In a chillingly bureaucratic 90-minute session, he laid out the operational plan for the final solution to the Jewish question: the systematic industrial-scale genocide of 11 million European Jews. By late 1941, Hitler was losing patience with the Czech resistance. Despite the occupation, acts of sabotage continued, and the nation's vital industrial output for the German war machine was lagging. He needed someone to bring the protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia to heel. He chose Heydrich. Upon arriving in Prague, Heydrich unleashed his infamous whip and sugar policy. The whip was swift and brutal. Martial law was declared. Nearly 5,000 resistance members and intellectuals were arrested. Many were summarily executed. He earned his nickname, the Butcher of Prague, in a matter of weeks. The sugar was a series of incentives for the workers: increased rations, better social benefits, a cynical ploy to pacify the population and turn them against the resistance. And it was working. In London, President-in-exile Edvard Beneš watched with growing alarm. He saw his nation's spirit being systematically crushed. Collaboration was increasing, and he feared Czechoslovakia would be fully assimilated into the Reich, its identity erased forever. Beneš knew he had to do something dramatic, something to prove to the world and to his own people that the fight was not over. He authorized Operation Anthropoid. The mission was perilously simple in its objective and infinitely complex in its execution. 2 soldiers from the Free Czechoslovak Army in Britain would be chosen, trained by the elite British Special Operations Executive, or SOE, and parachuted into their homeland to carry out the assassination. The men selected were Warrant Officer Jozef Gabčík, a determined former locksmith from Slovakia, and Staff Sergeant Jan Kubiš, the son of a Moravian peasant. Both were patriots who had fled their homeland to continue the fight. At the SOE's special training schools in Scotland, they were drilled in the dark arts of espionage and assassination. Their primary weapons were chosen for their close quarters effectiveness: a 9mm Sten submachine gun, light, cheap, and easy to conceal, and modified No. 73 anti-tank grenades, powerful enough to destroy a vehicle. On the freezing night of December 28, 1941, Gabčík and Kubiš boarded a Royal Air Force Halifax bomber. Heavy snow and navigational difficulties meant they were dropped miles from their intended landing zone near Pilsen. They landed near a village 20 kilometers from Prague. From the very first moment, the mission was in jeopardy. Gabčík severely injured his foot on the landing, and they had no idea where they were. Forced to break protocol, they made contact with the local resistance. For the next 2 months, as Gabčík's foot slowly healed, they were moved from one secret location to another, living on a knife's edge. A key sanctuary was the Prague apartment of the Moravia family, a hub of resistance activity where they found a temporary home. Once Gabčík was mobile again, the real work began. Through a network of informants, including contacts on Heydrich's own household staff, they began to piece together the Reich protector's daily routine. They learned that every morning, Heydrich traveled from his chateau in the suburbs to his headquarters at Prague Castle in a large, unescorted, open-top green Mercedes convertible. This arrogance would be his undoing. The team identified the perfect ambush location. In the Prague suburb of Holešovice, Heydrich's route included a sharp, hairpin right turn that forced the car to slow to a crawl. At that moment, the most powerful man in Czechoslovakia would be a sitting duck. The plan was set. Valčík, another agent, would act as a lookout. As the car approached, Gabčík would step into the street and open fire with the Sten gun. Kubiš would follow up with the grenade if needed. The morning of May 27, 1942, Gabčík and Kubiš took their positions, disguised as commuters waiting for a tram. The minutes ticked by. 10 o'clock came and went. Heydrich was unusually late. The agents grew nervous. Had the mission been compromised? Then at 10:30 a.m. the signal came. The green Mercedes rumbled into view. As the car slowed for the turn, Gabčík threw off his raincoat, raised the Sten gun, stepped forward, and pulled the trigger. Click. Nothing. The gun had jammed. In that moment of stunned silence, Heydrich made a fatal error. Instead of ordering his driver to accelerate away, he yelled for the car to stop. He stood up, drew his pistol, and tried to fire at Gabčík. That gave John Kubiš his opening. He ran forward and lobbed his grenade towards the car. It fell short, but exploded against the right rear wheel. The blast was immense. Shrapnel tore through the car's bodywork and into Heydrich's side, embedding fragments of metal and horsehair from the car's upholstery deep into his spleen and diaphragm. Kubiš himself was wounded in the face by the blast. Chaos erupted. In the confusion, the agents made their escape. Heydrich, apparently unaware of the severity of his wounds, staggered out of the car and tried to give chase before collapsing in the street. He was eventually loaded into the back of a delivery van and rushed to the nearby Bulovka hospital. The mission was complete, but the consequences were just beginning. At the hospital, surgeons operated, removing his ruptured spleen. For several days, against all odds, it appeared Heydrich might survive, but the dirt, metal, and upholstery fragments carried into his body by the blast had done their work. On June 3rd, he suddenly went into shock. He died in the early hours of June 4th from septicemia, blood poisoning. When the news reached Berlin, Hitler flew into a volcanic rage, demanding the immediate execution of 10,000 Czechs. While his aides talked him down from that number, the wave of terror that followed was unimaginable. A state of emergency was declared. A massive manhunt led by the ruthless SS General Karl Hermann Frank swept across the Protectorate. A reward of 10 million crowns was offered for information. The Nazi retribution was not just about finding the assassins, it was about terrorizing an entire nation into submission. Their fury found its most infamous expression in the small mining village of Lidice. On June 9th, based on a flimsy and likely fabricated connection to the resistance, SS troops descended upon the town. What happened next was an act of pure calculated evil. All 173 men and boys over the age of 15 were rounded up and shot in groups of 10. The women were sent to Ravensbrück concentration camp. The children, with a few exceptions selected for Germanization, were sent to an extermination camp and gassed. The village of Lidice was then systematically destroyed, burned to the ground, dynamited and bulldozed until not a single trace remained. A few days later, the village of Ležáky met a similar fate. Meanwhile, the assassins and their comrades were hiding in the crypt of the Church of St. Cyril and Methodius in central Prague. But their time was running out. One of their own, Karl Čurda, a member of another parachutist team, broke under the pressure of the Nazi terror and the massive reward. He walked into Gestapo headquarters and became a traitor. He betrayed the safe houses, including the Moravia family. When the Gestapo raided their home, Marie Moravia committed suicide with a cyanide capsule. Her teenage son, Ada, was brutally tortured. He finally broke after being shown his mother's severed head in a fish tank and revealed the church as the agent's possible hiding place. At 4 a.m. on June 18th, 750 SS soldiers surrounded the church. The final battle began. The agents in the choir loft, including Kubiš, held off the initial assault for 2 hours before being overwhelmed by superior numbers and grenades. Kubiš was severely wounded and died shortly after being captured. The remaining agents, including Gabčík, were trapped in the flooded crypt below. The Germans shouted for them to surrender. Their defiant reply echoed from the darkness. "We are Czechs. We will never surrender." The SS brought in the Prague Fire Brigade, attempting to flood the agents out by pumping water through a window. For hours, the trapped men fought back, pushing the hoses out. Finally, with their ammunition nearly gone and the water rising, 4 final gunshots rang out from within the crypt. They had taken their own lives. Their 3-week ordeal was over. Operation Anthropoid was over, but its legacy was just beginning. In the immediate aftermath, the human cost was staggering. At least 5,000 innocent Czechs were murdered in the reprisals that followed Heydrich's death. The destruction of Lidice sent a shockwave of horror around the world, becoming a symbol of Nazi barbarity. For decades, historians have debated the question, was it worth it? Was the death of one man, no matter how evil, worth the lives of so many innocents? There is no easy answer, but the mission had a profound and undeniable political impact. Outraged by the Lidice massacre, Great Britain and Free France formally repudiated the 1938 Munich Agreement, the pact that had dismembered Czechoslovakia and handed it to Hitler. They pledged that after the war, the nation would be restored to its pre-1938 borders. The assassination of Reinhard Heydrich was a tactical success born of incredible courage. It was also the catalyst for a human tragedy of immense proportions. But above all, it was a powerful act of defiance. It was a message sent from an occupied land to the very heart of the Third Reich and to the world. It declared that even the most powerful agents of darkness were not untouchable, and that as long as there were those willing to make the ultimate sacrifice, the flame of resistance would never be extinguished.